Cheesecake is a smooth, creamy dessert made with a velvety, sweetened cheese filling, and it's a staple for restaurants and bakeries. I started off by showing you a basic New York-style cheesecake that was sinfully rich and allowed us to master the technique so we could move on to individual chocolate swirl cheesecakes with that rich mascarpone cheese filling. Now I know you're ready for the challenge of a key lime cheesecake. Now this has multiple layers and it starts with the crust. The crust for this cheesecake is in an altogether different world. It's actually a coconut macaroon crust. I start with 1.5 cups of sweetened flaked coconut. And to this I add 1/4 cup of sugar and 1/4 cup of flour, just all-purpose flour. And just give that a stir to coat the coconut. If you've ever had a good chewy coconut macaroon, then you know it's the egg white that actually sets it. I'm going to save the yolk because I'll actually use that in the cheesecake filling. And then I lightly whisk this until foamy, just by hand. And the sugar dissolves into the egg white, making this a little bit sticky. Okay. I'm using the springform pan that are standardly 9 inches across. This time it's lightly greased. Because this macaroon mixture is a little bit sticky, what I find helps is dipping my fingers in a little cool water and then pressing it into the bottom of the crust. And I've got the oven heated to 350. It takes a good 18 minutes, but it'll still be that soft coconut macaroon texture in the center. So while that bakes, I can get to the filling. I'm going back to traditional cream cheese, but this time I have 3 packages of it. I still have to follow that same initial technique, beating the cream cheese first to get it evenly textured. No matter how long you've been baking cheesecake, you know that scraping the bowl is the most important step. Instead of adding granulated sugar, I'm moving into sweetened condensed milk, a full tin of it, so it adds sweetness and richness, but it also makes the cheesecake batter a little bit thinner than that New York cheesecake batter. And now's the time to add the flavorings, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and these are key limes, and they have such a perfume to them and a sweetness. Of course, if you can't find key limes, a traditional lime will work beautifully well in this recipe. And it'll take grating a couple of limes to get to my tablespoon of zest. Okay, so I'll blend that in. I've got my 1 egg yolk saved, and I'll add to that 2 eggs. When adding the eggs to this cheesecake, the same technique applies. On a lower speed, add them 1 at a time, and don't forget to scrape your bowl. And the final addition is 1/2 cup of freshly squeezed key lime juice. Now, this crust, it's got that nice light brown right around the edges, but just like the other 2 cheesecakes I've made, you have to let the crust cool completely before you fill it. This one has already had a chance to cool. And quite simply, pour the entire filling over top. I have the oven temperature set at 300, and I let it cook for 40 minutes. Beautiful. Still a little jiggle to the center. So now, while the cheesecake is still warm, I'm going to make a lime curd. And this is sort of like a citrus custard. I have 2 whole eggs and 2 egg yolks. And I add to that 1/2 cup of that freshly squeezed lime juice. And to balance it out, 1/2 cup of sugar. And just like in the cheesecake filling, you want to add zest to the curd too. So I'll whisk this first, and then I place it over a water bath. The added ingredients of 1/2 cup of butter and let that melt in. And then I gotta throw in a little sour cream, a 1/4 cup. There we go. The butter will melt in, the sour cream smooths out, and the eggs thicken it up. It takes about 10 minutes. You can really smell the lime in there, and now the curd has thickened up. I'll just strain the curd to get rid of all the lime zest. And while it's warm, I pour it on top of the cheesecake, just like I did that sour cream topping. I'll cool this down completely, and then it's into the fridge for at least 6 hours to set. I have one already chilled and ready for the finishing touches. And just to really loosen the lime curd that I put on, but also to get an even line, I'll run my offset on the inside of the pan. There we go. For the last layer, I'll add a little vanilla and sugar to a cup of whipped cream. The whipped cream is the crowning glory on this cheesecake, because when you order a key lime pie, there's always a dollop of whipped cream on top. And then, for a little color, good sprinkling of fresh blueberries right on top. This is truly a showstopper of a dessert, and I have to say, a personal favorite of mine. We've really come through all the levels of making cheesecake, so now it's time to have some fun. I'm going to turn the New York cheesecake into cheesecake pops.